Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
And you are listening to the Break It Down Show.
So smooth.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John and Pete.
This week's show, my guest is Pete, and Pete's guest is me.
Yeah, man. This is always fun. Actually, we haven't done this particular format before, but we like interviewing each other anyhow. So
yeah,
let's do it.
We interview each other while riding in cars. We have a lot of experience riding in cars.
That's true.
We've done many miles.
Many miles. Many road trips.
Difference is between the shows of these that we've done in the past and this one is that we now live approximately 450 miles away from each other.
That's true.
And that's created some very interesting changes that are going to be great for the show.
I think so, yeah.
It's created some changes that are going to be a challenge for the show. And I think that the main challenge is that, man, you have proximity to a multitude of amazing guests.
It's crazy.
I'm going to miss a bunch of those shows.
Yeah. It's hard because I want to wait to have you come down and do these shows. But sometimes it's just the availability is that it's today or it's next week or whatever. So, yeah.
You sent me an email today. I think it seems like you raided Jay's phone because you sent me an email today and I opened it up and there was like a dozen, maybe 12 to 15 people and their phone numbers.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can't wait to, I would say that out of the, however many those were, it was like 12, 13, 14, I don't know.
Yeah.
There were at least 4 or 5 where I was like, if you call me, like if you were to call me right now and say, hey man, tomorrow I'm getting, there were 4 or 5 names where I would be like, I'm going to drink a 5-hour energy
and get to work
and get my fucking ass on the road.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow. What time are you doing it?
Yeah. It's incredible to be down there because everybody is down there.
Yeah.
And you just look at all the different places and ways and people that have fantastic stories that need to be talked to. Mm-hmm. And there's thousands.
Thousands
of them.
Yeah.
You can not talk to anybody from Jay's show and have
There's still thousands.
World-class roster of people. Yeah. And he's got almost 400 shows.
Right.
So.
And the nice thing, though, about that list was, I don't know, I suppose most of those people have been on his show.
I would imagine.
Yeah. But there were some very key people that we've talked about with Jay. Getting like, hey, Jay, can you put in the good word with, oh, yeah, of course.
Totally. Yeah.
And when I saw, there's one in particular that I'm thinking of, and oh, man. But then there are 3 or 4 more.
Yeah.
And believe me, if we did, there are a couple people on that list whose work I'm really not that familiar with. Of course, I've heard of them, and you look at the name and you go, oh, yeah, that's right. I better go listen to that show a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was the response that it incited. But yeah, exciting times, man.
I'll say a couple of names of people that I know that we're very close to getting or have got. But Chris Titus has agreed to be on the show.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a big fan of his too.
Yeah, and I love everything he's ever done.
Yep.
I don't get enough of Chris Titus. I'm excited, and we're apparently, if he enjoys himself, we're going to be on his show.
Yeah. I had Chris Titus, was like really high on my list many years ago when he first emerged.
Right. And
he had the Chris Titus show. And then he went through a scandal of some sort, did he not?
They all get in
he had the good fortune of having some good fortune.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody runs into something.
Yeah.
And then some people have the resilience to stick around and endure the, hey, finger wagging or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And he did.
Yeah, and whatever, like you make a mistake, whatever his mistake was, I don't even care. But at some point, you're like, gosh, that was 10 years ago.
Oh, man. I think it was more than that.
Right, but you get to say, like, that was 10 years ago.
And honestly, it was one of those mistakes I wish I would make. It's like, ooh,
yeah,
that's a juicy mistake right there.
Yeah,
I wish I'd have had that. Like that one year we talk about that we've had in the past. So that one year where you were like, ooh, boy, was I on a tear that year.
That was it. That was the one.
Man.
It's
different when you're famous and you have money. Boy, you get to go on a different level of tear.
And there's people looking for people going on tears.
Uh-huh.
They're just waiting for the blotter. They're waiting for the papers to drop in court, whatever it is. So, Yeah, it's a higher cost, and that's what comes with the territory. But I'm excited to get him scheduled and on the show, and man, we got some really good people coming up.
Yep,
really, really good. I'm blown away that we have Nathan East booked, set.
Boggles my mind.
Yeah,
I mean, his body of work is so. I don't know if I want to say that yet. I really want Dave Agent to be surprised when we post.
Oh, okay.
That show.
All right.
I don't know. Well, what the hell? Cat's out of the bag.
Cat's out of the bag.
If he listens to this episode, then whatever.
He can be surprised right there. Surprise,
surprise.
Dave. Nathan East is going to be on the show.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people about it, and I don't know what your experience is. I'm going to ask you that question in a second, but people either know who he is, or when I tell them who he works with, they are like, whoa, wait, you guys have him on your show? I'm like,
yeah.
I told you our show's good.
Yep.
And we get good people. But how do you get someone like that? Like, because our show is good.
Yeah.
And we care about people. We care about our listeners, and we get good people because of that.
Sometimes I think there's some timing, and we catch somebody right when they're, just happen to be available. And then, they have to look you up because they're like, what am I walking into?
Yeah.
And I want to say that when, you had Nathan on the hook and he was in the midst of saying, like as people were going through his calendar and making sure, and he was like, we had a couple of good guests on right around then that he probably went, okay.
Yeah.
These guys are legit. And then I found out he and Larry Batiste know each other.
Right.
So, I don't think that we had quite posted the Larry show when you had started that conversation.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure I used Larry's name too, because one of the things I say here's the big reveal. Mm-hmm. One of the things I say is, basically it's okay to be on our show. We've had your peers on our show, and then regardless if the person really is a peer or not, I view them as their peers. Mm-hmm. So when I say Grammy winners, true. Emmy winners, true. Mm-hmm. Our artists have sold well over 100 million albums.
Well over.
Yeah, and I've not said anybody's name.
Right.
But I'm just saying these are the credentials that your peers have.
Yep.
And if you want to be in the show, and if that's not good enough, and if they have some kind of brass-based thing, I say Mick Gillette, because they should all know who that is. Or I'll say Sly Stone, because everybody should know who that is.
Yeah. The guy who invented the funk album.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I've had a similar experience where some people just know who he is and they go, holy shit.
Yeah.
Because he's in the conversation for, right now, the crown of world's best bass player.
Right.
There are artists who demand excellence and who get it, and they fight over him.
Yeah. And he's worth fighting over.
He's worth fighting over, yeah. I mean, he's been on thousands and thousands of recordings, thousands and thousands of shows. It's because of him that Babyface and Eric Clapton cannot tour at the same time.
Right. And they work that out.
Yeah.
That's a choice that they make because Eric Clapton can get whoever he wants.
And if you don't know who Nathan East is, here's a good way to look and find Nathan East. Look at the Eric Clapton Unplugged special.
Right.
Because he played on that.
Yeah.
Or look at the Babyface Unplugged special because he played on that. And everybody was on the Babyface Unplugged special because he brought, hey, I'm going to get a drummer. I'm going to have Ricky Lawson. I need a percussionist. Let's get Sheila E. Yeah. He just went down the list and there's Nathan.
Yeah.
And anchoring the whole thing.
You do something that I love to participate in. And I try to I dig deep to figure it out. But on Facebook, and for those that you don't follow John on Facebook, you should, John Leon Guerrero. You do these Mount Rushmore of topics. And I just love that you've caught on to this because they get a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
The most recent one that you did, I believe, was the frontman.
Frontman.
And not front woman.
Right. That's a different conversation.
Yeah, and
it deserves different attention.
Right. And we kind of avoid the greatest of all time conversations because it's just not fair.
Yeah.
But
there's no wrong answer.
There's no wrong answer. I
love to get everybody's answer because nobody's wrong.
Right. And if you have that one person that deserves mention and you can that's okay. They can be in the lobby of Mount Rushmore. You can talk about them. It's all right. But the bar just seems like it's just high enough that it hurts. But there is a bar. There's a line. You know, like you can say, and I'm going to say Bono's on there for frontman because he is. You know, the songs are there, the longevity is there, and then what he's done with his celebrity that clears him over the bar. And if you want to be on the mountain next to him,
think of a category. Actually, think of a category. Like it's okay. Let's say we're basing it on longevity.
Yeah.
Who's been around longer than Bono?
Right. Yeah.
You know, you could say Paul McCartney.
Sure.
Okay, now we're in a conversation that's got Paul McCartney in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so then what other things can you say? Well, no, let's take it on let's take it on just songwriting. Okay.
Okay. Well, he's still there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
How many albums?
Yeah.
You know, did he truly deliver? And the thing is, this deep into their career as a band,
right?
They're continuing. They put out a record, you got to listen to it.
Yeah.
It might not be to your liking, it might not be your favorite album, but it's somebody's favorite album, and you have to listen to it.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
It's going to get played.
It's like, a Beatles record coming out. I mean, aside from the fact that it's going to get played and you're going to hear it.
Yeah.
It's the new U2 album. It deserves a listen.
And if U2 puts an album out, if Bono's band puts an album out, there's a good chance there's going to be an Oscar nomination.
There's good chance it's going to be nominated for a number of things.
Yeah. I mean, and we're talking Oscars.
Yeah.
Grammys for sure. You
right.
know, and their stuff that's the level that it's at.
And it could be for God knows anything.
Yeah.
You know, there's also there's the, I liked what he did in this era.
Right.
Well, I like what he did in this era.
Yeah.
And you can go, well, this era Bono versus this era Bono, and have a conversation about who was the dominant front man, comparing two different years of his own career.
This is why the bar is so high, because that's who you're getting chiseled against.
Yeah.
And so, Logan Lynn was on Jay Moore's podcast a couple podcasts ago, and he's not a Bono fan. And if we have a chance to talk to him at some point, I'm going to ask him about that, because what I want to challenge him to say is, look, if game recognizes game, and you have to say yes to that, you have to recognize Bono's game if you're Logan Lynn, because you are a subset of what he's at. Logan Lynn is super talented. I'm not saying that he doesn't have any problem with the talent. He's hugely talented, but you have to recognize it. You can't dismiss it. And you don't have to like Bono. You don't have to like his attitude, but you have to recognize the game.
Yeah, you can't say he hasn't delivered.
Right, because he's done all those things.
Right.
Sold over 100 million albums, a crap load of singles, done things in movies, nobody puts on a finer stage show, and he is the front man of that stage show.
There's no mistaking.
Yeah.
So my friend Bill puts up Flavor Flav. And I say, I'm kind of leaning towards Chuck D being the front man for Public Enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Flavor Flav's a hype man.
Right.
And he said, yeah, but I like Flavor Flav.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Good
there
enough.
You go.
Yeah.
He's on your mountain. It's your mountain.
I had this conversation, and I hate to keep saying Jay's name, but Jay's part of our lives. So Jay and I were talking about Mount Rushmore for frontmen, and I said, this is kind of my criteria, and I put James Brown on there, but I also said I didn't want to I kind of want to have excluded solo acts, and for me, on my side of it, and I want to hear what you think, but I really am breaking my own rule with James Brown, but I also can't stand to look at a Mount Rushmore of frontmen that's all white dudes. Like, how do I account for that when a lot of the music is, drawn heavily from black music? So I'm like, well, that's kind of not right. But James Brown is the leader of his band. You don't work in that band unless he specifically wants you there, and he stays on top of you.
Well, yes, and not only that, but it's the stays on top of you.
Right. Is that what makes him because I also didn't want to put Prince in there, because Prince to me is a solo act. He can put anybody he wants behind him, and frequently change that, because he is the act.
That's true, but
that's how high the bar is too, by the way.
Of the function of frontman, I put both of those guys on. By the way, I went like the Niagara Falls semicircle, and I had 3 mountains with 4 guys on them. And if I remember correctly, one mountain was James Brown, Prince, Michael Jackson.
Right.
And there again, I've said a name, and a name. You know, not a band, and a band.
Right, yeah.
So, and George Clinton.
Okay.
Which, if you think about it, so I could say legitimately George Clinton because he was the front man for Parliament.
Right.
But if you look at the function that all four of those individuals performed, they all performed the same function with their band, which was that you are going to see a band. It's not like
Elton John or something.
Well, you know, with Elton John, you even have to kind of count him because he's always got a band. There are certain artists that you see that'll make a video, let's say, where it's just that guy.
But is anybody there to see Elton John's band?
Well, you got something there. Yeah.
You know, you're paying a ticket to see Jay-Z, and Justin Timberlake tours with the band, but you're not there to see.
Awesome band.
Yeah.
But you are there to see
So
Justin Timberlake. But what happens is he shows up with this band,
right?
And the band is clearly an integral part of that performance.
Sure. Absolutely.
And that was always the case with Michael Jackson.
Right.
And that was always the case with all of those guys. Now, James Brown, you know, it started off what JB and Night Train, or JB and the Fabulous Flames, and JB and so it was always James Brown and somebody.
Right.
You know, Prince is Prince. He made his first 4 albums, didn't have anybody else on them but him.
Right. Yeah.
So there's that.
Right.
But when we, you know, at the height of his popularity, he had The Revolution. Yes. And then he had the New Power Generation.
Right.
And, you know, then he had Third Eye Girl. And so there was always a band, and he always led it.
Right.
So that's why I put them on there. There was never that.
It is a tough distinction. And, you know, is it a solo act? Is Elvis a solo act, or is Elvis, you know, a leader? And yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And if you didn't have people who were on that solo act thing, if you couldn't have James Brown, who would if you couldn't have Prince, if you had to have people that were from
a band. Okay.
You know, when you know that group as Rush.
Yes, right.
Who would your 4 be?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that changes a lot.
Sure, yeah.
So you've got you got Sly.
Okay.
But even he, you know, I mean, at some point he kind of became a solo act.
At some point, yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's Sly and the Family Stone.
It's true.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard.
So you can't delete them. So I would put that up there.
Right. And the other thing is when you look at the greatest bands of all time, and you make a list, it's really hard to put an American band in the top 5. But Americans make better solo acts, better lead performers.
Yeah.
So, like, if you were to say the greatest band of all time, you have to say the Beatles, or you're fudging, you know. But they're the best band, save maybe 2 other bands you could talk about intelligently. But they didn't have a lead man,
right?
You know, hell, they had 3 lead men in that band.
Yeah, they did.
You know?
They did.
So it's not them.
And they're one of those things that we've talked about this. Like if you took Jermaine Jackson out of the Jacksons,
right,
and you stuck him in the Gap band, he'd blow away everybody in the Gap band.
Right.
He'd blow away everybody in every other band except that he's in the Jacksons.
Right. Yeah.
And so, you know, it's Michael, and then he's kind of a distant second. I love you, Jermaine, but you know, was a distant second to Michael, and but in any other band, he'll kick everybody's ass. Hell, Marlon,
Tito, any of those guys,
yeah, they were tied for 5th, and would kick anybody else's ass in any other band.
Yes, Mick Jagger absolutely has a place, I think.
Yeah,
because everybody in that particular rock and roll genre sort of copied his or worked off his style,
right?
Worked off his lead, built their careers on his back.
Yeah.
So Vince Neil, David Lee Roth.
It took at least 15 comments, 15 little threads. Somebody would chime in with theirs, and somebody else would chime in with theirs. And Freddie Mercury came up a lot, and Mick Jagger came up a lot, and then David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
There was like 15 people deep had started a little mini thread, had spidered off before David Lee Roth showed up. I'm of the generation, and I know you are too. I mean, because we were teenagers when the US Festival happened.
Sure, yeah.
How did it take so long for David Lee Roth to pop up on a frontman list?
I think he was brilliant, and for just long enough to matter, because that matters. And this is one of my things, like Freddie Mercury was brilliant and absolutely deserves consideration. On My Mountain, he can't make it because he couldn't pull his band through eras.
Yeah.
And it was too short.
It didn't hang in there long enough.
Right. And so when Dave couldn't get his band.
And somebody can say, no, Queen's been around for so, yes, they have been
but
around
Freddie
for so
Mercury's
long.
been dead for 25 years.
Yeah.
So, and then you look at their career, and yes, they had a very healthy career, but different, and yes, they went from more of a disco-y kind of thing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's guys who did it longer, and
Mick
Jagger did it longer.
And you absolutely must count that.
Yes.
Tom Petty, Jesus.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney. He came from a band that had 3 front men.
Yeah.
And then he continued on with his own thing.
His own new band.
And I would
his
say
own solo act.
Yeah. And among all of the Beatles, who just like Marlon would kick anybody else's ass in every other band.
Right.
I think the one who emerged as the, you know what, I'm going to have the staying power as a front man here was Paul.
Yeah. I think Paul had the tunes. And I'm not saying that John Lennon didn't have it, but he was doing different things with his life. He was a different kind of guy, where Paul has this musical well that he has to look. If John Lennon, at the height of his writing ability, sits down in front of today's Paul McCartney, who's the sensei? Paul McCartney can teach that.
Yeah,
John,
absolutely.
So that.
Let me tell you what I've learned in the 30 years that I've continued to do this.
Right.
Into new technologies.
Right.
In stagecraft and everything else.
Everything. Yeah.
And let me show you how it's done. You can sit Indian style in the middle of the room with your acoustic guitar next to Ravi Shankar playing the tabla or whatever. And that's great. That's awesome. But
and Rudolph Schenker hired to play licks.
Right. At some point, Wembley Stadium is going to come calling, and they're going to want a big show.
Yeah.
And who they're going to call is Paul.
Right. That's true. They're going to call Paul. And if you want to get a song written at the very highest level that anybody can consume, you're going to call Paul.
That's true.
Now,
what about Eric Clapton? Because you can't deny that he's an amazing frontman.
I put him on my list. He was on my Mount Rushmore.
Even though he's now really classified as a solo artist?
Yeah, I struggled with it because he was the 4th guy I put up.
Yeah.
Because I did James Brown because I had to have someone of color on there. I couldn't justify my list without it. And then Bono, and then Mick, because Mick influenced so many people and has done it forever. And different eras. He satisfied all those things.
He pulled his band through eras.
Yeah. And kept his band together. And I think there's a bonus if your band is still a band of some kind of consequence.
Now, here's what I'll say about your putting Mick Jagger up there instead of another person of color. If you're looking at the roots of rock and roll, everybody says, including the Rolling Stones, we came to America to sell black music back to Americans.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what they did, and that's what he did. So you could say, well, he was really just
a white black guy,
as Chris Thomas King put it. He was Tina Turner,
a Bourbon Street pole dancer.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
So you could say that.
Yeah, you could.
However, boy, he did that for like 45 years.
Yeah, and the other thing is like you can say, oh well, Phil Anselmo was more powerful. And yeah, okay, great. But Phil Anselmo's band isn't together. He was an asshole towards his. Like, there's always infighting. Like, if you're going to be a front man for me, you got to take your band a long way. And maybe you get in a different band like Paul McCartney and still do it. But how many albums has Phil Anselmo sold compared to pick any 3 of Mick Jagger's albums?
Right.
And there's going to be an ass whooping. You know, and that's how high the bar is. I love Phil Anselmo's work. You want to get jacked up and into something. Him and Dimebag Darrell, good God,
Yeah.
But the bar is above their head.
Yeah.
So Eric Clapton, for me, I looked and I said, any band he's in, he's the guy you're there to see.
Yeah.
And that's
by definition.
You're not there to see Ginger Baker, And Ginger, again, the bar is very high. It's above Ginger Baker's head. And Ginger Baker didn't lead Cream anyhow, but the bands that he was in, he was the guy.
Also, that motherfucker's bananas.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I was asked if we would have him on the show, like just as a conversation, not as an offer. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, I don't want to have to punch an old man because he punched me first.
Right. Right.
Like,
yeah. Because the fact is, he's either going to kick your ass, and we don't want that.
Right.
You don't get your ass kicked by an old man.
Why is your lip
you
off
want to
fat?
take an old man ass whooping.
Yeah.
Because he might just be salty enough.
Yeah.
Or you might just hit him and crumble him.
Yeah, be the guy.
And then you're the guy who crumbled the old man and who happened to be Ginger Baker, and nobody wants that.
Yeah.
One of the topics that we could get on that I'm not trying to start because I don't want to do it.
Okay.
But I want to acknowledge that we've had so many great guests and they're all lovable for a multitude of reasons. We have, just like Ginger Baker, I know that wasn't an offer, it was just a conversation piece, but we have turned away several people who other people would love to have on their show.
Absolutely.
Who we were just like,
not quite ready for us.
Nah, taking that one. Can't have the bait on that one.
No, there's people that we, for sure. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that too much.
Yeah.
Because we do, we love everybody,
right?
And not everybody. We've learned to be able to say not everybody fits our show, And we've purposely backed off on how many shows we're recording because we're working on other projects. We need to talk about that. But the Mount Rushmore thing, I want to hold you on it. If they're from a band,
okay,
where the band is the thing,
yep.
Who do you think off the top of your head? Who are you for? And by the way, I want to say hi to Charlie. Charlie, I know you don't like U2 as much as I do, but still.
I wasn't wild about Charlie's list either. I can't remember what it was that he's big on Freddie Mercury.
Sure,
Sounds good.
And I think Freddie Mercury's a great pick.
Yeah, he was great.
And he needs to be part of the conversation. I just think the bar's higher.
I can't remember who else was on his list, but I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But we left Charlie for a number of other reasons. Let's see. Well, actually, I have to put this to rest before we left Charlie for his relentlessness.
Oh, yeah.
That guy will not be denied. He really cares deeply, passionately about veterans hurting themselves. He's part of the mission.
Yep.
And he won't give up.
He won't.
And honestly,
give up.
Every day I wake up and I see, some notification about him.
Yep.
Putting himself on my wall doing push-ups.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where, man, he's like Forrest Gump. And I don't ever want to, it'll be a crushing blow should I ever wake up one day.
Yeah.
And he's given up on it.
Has there anything in your life that you've done for somebody else that you weren't related to every day for 6 months in a row that you can think of? Obviously, you can't, raising your boys every day, but.
Yeah. I wish I could say yes to that question.
It's hard to find something.
I wish I could say yes. I don't know anything that I've done for somebody else, for a lot of somebody else, complete strangers.
Yeah.
Just for the good of humanity.
Right.
And just been after it.
Yeah.
Day after day after day.
So keep doing it, Charlie. We're noticing. People are definitely paying attention.
Absolutely. And loving it.
So nice wiggle, but your 4 bands, please.
I know. That was a wiggle. Let's see. Man, I would say, now that I look back on it, man, there was a bunch of solo artists on there. So I'm sticking with George Clinton.
Okay.
I'm going to say Sly Stone.
Because you do love the funk.
I do love the funk, man. There's Maurice White.
Okay.
Gee whiz.
I'm just going to say this in critique of your list thus far, and everybody on there is fantastic.
Right.
I'm just going to ask if the bar is above their heads. If I want a guy to absolutely sing the fuck out of a song and not do a whole lot of entertaining, any one of those 3 guys is awesome at that. But if you needed some showmanship, those are not your 3 guys.
Okay, so one of the things that one of the stories I heard from Juan Escovedo years and years ago was when he was a kid, he was, he grew up in the same house as Pete Escovedo.
Right.
So he knew his way around what a musical performance was and what a stage show looked like. And when he was a kid, at some point in like 1975 or 6, he went to the Oakland Coliseum to see Parliament.
Yeah.
And he said that show changed his life.
Wow.
Because in all of the things that he's seen, and I mean, his dad had played with everybody.
Yeah.
He said he went to that show, and the first thing that he noticed about the movement was that somehow all of these folks from Oakland were in the Coliseum, and they were all going to go to space.
Right.
And there was a spaceship, and it was all, it was just like it was otherworldly.
Yeah.
And then he said the music began, and the smoke came rolling out, and everybody knew the shit was about to go.
Yeah.
And the hatch or door or stairs or whatever it is that comes down out of a spaceship opened slowly, and the fanfare began, and there was all the stuff that was about to happen. And George Clinton's boot came out of the spaceship. Pow! And he put his boot down on the stair, and you couldn't see nothing else but George Clinton's boot, and he stuck it out there for 4 minutes.
And just worked it.
And the crowd just went crazy about his silver boot for 4 minutes. And he milked this whole thing. Probably didn't sing a note until minute 18 of his show.
Right.
So, yeah, I think I'm going to leave George Clinton on
All
there.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John and Pete.
Hey, everybody, if you like the Break It Down show,
I can dig it.
And of course you do.
of course you do, hit that subscribe button.
John and Pete.
It helps us out.
Hey, if you're going to like the show on Facebook or on Twitter, it helps us out if you share the show so people can learn about it. So liking it is great. Sharing is even better.
Let's do some spy stuff.
Yeah, just
let's
sneak
get
in
all
there.
our friends' phones and have them subscribe to the Break It Down show. Do it. Subscribe. Listen to the show. If you love the show, tell 5 of your friends. Or if you hate the show, tell 5 of your friends.
Sly Stone couldn't lead himself.
Yeah. That part of that is just the
and the influence is undeniable. I mean, it's mega.
Part of that is the musical influence and but I'm willing to.
Could you trade?
Go ahead, bounce him off.
Could you trade James Hetfield? Still get a Bay Area guy. Still get a guy that has longevity and took his band through multiple eras and wrote the fuck out of some songs.
Man.
Rocked as hard as anybody's ever rocked anything. Could you swap him out? Or is James Hetfield just below the bar?
Man, I want James Hetfield to be there.
PhD holding James Hetfield.
Yeah.
Dr. Hetfield.
But I want James Hetfield's contribution to be more musical and cerebral, but it's not. It's absolutely very visceral. I mean, he gets it going. I went to Monsters of Rock in 1988, maybe.
Okay, that sounds like the tour I went to too.
And that bill was Van Halen was the headliner.
Wow.
Motley Crue.
Holy cow.
Whitesnake.
Yeah.
Poison.
There's a lot of hairspray now.
Metallica.
Yeah.
And a little band from San Jose called Jet Boy.
Okay.
And they didn't last, but they were pretty good. I think that was all that was on that tour. But that's pretty... Scorpions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus.
There was a lot of frontmen to be seen
that
tour. And that Van Halen version was Sammy Hagar. Which, by the way, David Lee Roth, when he was David Lee Roth, was amazing and was a wonderful frontman. Eventually, Sammy did come up and kick his ass.
Yeah. Well, I think Sammy's more stable.
Yeah.
And that's where the stability comes in.
Right. The stability, the longevity, all those things that you mentioned. I think that's what counts. Because when Sammy's first year in Van Halen was happening, it was like, this is good. It's a good record. They're doing it. But he's not David Lee Roth. And I think 3 records after that, I think it was like, this is his band now.
Well, and that's when Sammy would say, who sold more records?
Right.
Scoreboard, baby.
And then you can push Dave off because he's done at that point. Not just with Van Halen, but he's done.
He's done, yeah.
And Sammy continues.
Yep.
to this day.
And even, where I reward longevity, if you're going to pull yourself through multiple eras, and Sammy clearly did that.
Yep.
You get the same kind of longevity bonus because your band couldn't go with you because they couldn't go with you.
Right.
And it's kind of like when Glenn Fry and Don Henley.
Yeah.
You guys all took a break. We took a break, but we kept making music that people bought.
That's right. They kept buying it. We kept the band relevant. Yeah. And you guys were asleep.
Yeah. So, yeah. You talk about a band with multiple lead people in it.
Yes. And also a great story.
Yeah.
Because that's what ended up happening when they all came back. They didn't all get paid the same.
Right.
They said, guess what, everybody? This is the Glenn Fry and Don Henley show, and we're going to put you guys on a salary. And if you don't like it, you can go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
Because, sorry, Joe.
Yeah.
We want to have you here.
Yeah.
But you've been out for a couple years, and we're bringing you back to a thing that you don't have this thing unless we bring you back.
Right.
And Joe Walsh had the good sense to go, you know what? That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm in.
Timothy B. Schmidt. Okay.
Timothy B. Schmidt. There's a guy with a great and charmed life.
Yeah.
Who'd never took anything for granted.
Right.
And was like, yeah, I'm in.
I'm in. Yep.
So,
yeah.
Did I get to 4?
No, I cut you off.
I am going to put Hetfield in there, man. I love James Hetfield.
Someone needs to recognize it.
Yeah.
Because he definitely is special. And if the bar's above his head on my list, it doesn't have to be above it for yours because he's world class.
Yeah. And now that you've put me in the realm of James Hetfield and I can look back at that, man, if Axl had some longevity, boy, did he have a great year and a half.
He had the David Lee Roth disease, though.
Yes, he did.
Too much of him, too much of drugs, and everything else. And it's just that's why that longevity is important. That's why Freddie Mercury got sick.
Okay. Where do we put John Bon Jovi?
Is he an 85% guy where he's just almost as good as the guys who were just better than him?
Yeah.
I think that's where he's at because he wrote great songs. And
he wrote great songs and women love, and I love him.
Yeah.
And I love him still.
Well, put him in the room with Bono. Bono's written more relevant songs. Has more masterpiece albums. Always fed half of Africa, forgotten.
Yeah, by the way.
And the thing
probably saved 100 million lives.
Yeah. And, the debt forgiveness stuff, he got anybody, the Pope, anybody he goes and sits with, he walks out the winner.
Yeah.
He got Jesse Helms, who's a Republican who hates all that kind of stuff. He's like, yeah, we have to do the right thing.
We have to
help these African people out.
Yep.
George Bush, Bill Clinton, it does not matter. So when John Bon Jovi walks into the room with Bill Clinton, he's not even in the room. He doesn't get in the room with Bill Clinton, and he's John Bon Jovi.
Doesn't he?
I don't know. Does he walk out with a handful of money?
I think he's done a good bit of that. He's got that Soul Cafe.
That's true. Yeah, he does that. Yeah.
He does that. And I mean, it's not on the scale of feeding half of Africa, but I think he's a good dude. He's done his part. He created a tremendous business that continues to this day.
And I have to say that I love John Bon Jovi. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he can win the fight against – he can maybe win a fight against Joe Walsh, Yeah,
I think he wins the fight against Joe Walsh.
And I love Joe Walsh.
Right.
But when it comes to taking on Mick Jagger –
yeah. Yeah.
There's an ass whooping right there.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe
I want to bring up Joe Elliott, but same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
He's terrific. I dig him.
Okay, Joe Elliott and John Bon Jovi.
There's a fight.
There's a fight right there.
Yeah.
And that's at the level. And they're world champs.
Yep.
But
you know what that is? Joe Elliott and John Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
That is the super lightweight fight of the year.
Yeah.
They're going to come out and they're going to do their thing. And, oh, man, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be high-fiving each other and shit.
People are going to go bonkers.
They're going to go bonkers.
Right. Yeah. There's
not the heavyweight title.
A lot of great names. Ronnie James Dio. Do you want to go see what a front man does and sing and do that well?
God, he did that for years.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's not in the caliber of the guys we're talking about in our list.
Right.
And I'm sure we're leaving people out that.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't said Ozzy,
right.
Which, man, I know.
How do we deal with Bon, Scott, and Brian?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like they're the same
Yep.
But they're not.
Scott Burford brought up Bon Scott, and I was like, ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But doesn't have the longevity. But man, was it amazing.
Yeah.
What a flash.
Yeah.
Burned out quickly. But
Right.
it was amazing while
Jim
it lasted.
Morrison, same thing.
Jim Morrison. He was on Charlie's list.
Yeah. Not long enough.
not
Because
long
when you
enough.
look at the history of it,
Amazing. But not long enough.
67 to 72.
Yeah.
5 years.
Yep.
So, world class. How about, I don't know if you want to say that Brian led the Beach Boys, but, someone had to lead the Beach Boys, I suppose.
Yeah.
You can't be better at inspirational music than that guy.
You can't be better at songwriting.
Right.
But when it came time to lead the band and they toured without him.
Yeah. Right.
So.
Yeah. And he wrote music without them.
Right.
So, that's
A genius.
Yeah,
But I don't know
absolutely.
that he gets on the front man list.
Yeah. It's a hard game. I mean, that's what makes Mount Rushmore great. You can put more than one person on there.
And there is a wrong answer for the Mount Rushmore, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because a couple of people said things like, how about the Motown roster? They had Smokey and Marvin and, Martha and the Vandellas and Diana Ross and Stevie Wonder. And okay, great.
Yeah.
Narrow it down to 4, buddy.
Yeah.
That's it.
Narrow
That's the
it
only
down.
offense is that you can't narrow it down to 4 because that's when the debate begins.
Yeah. That's when it gets hard. That's when you realize how high the bar is.
Everybody we've said was great.
Yes.
But we got to narrow it down to 4.
Got to narrow it down to 4. Look, Rick Ocasek is great.
Yeah.
He is not he's not going to be out. I think everybody would agree. Like, he is below the bar for Mount Rushmore, Some people on these Mount Rushmore things are the mountain.
Yeah.
They are so far and above. And I don't know if there is a lead person like that, but
I don't know that there's a lead person like that either. But I remember, this all started actually with Jay's Mount Rushmore of comedy, which was to say that George Carlin is the entire mountain.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about 4 other people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And Bill Russell from the Celtics is it for basketball players. Like, Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player. Okay, LeBron James. Yeah, but 11 rings.
Yep. 11.
11. You got one for the thumb. He's got 2 for the thumb.
Yeah.
And 1 for the dick.
Right. Yeah. We're going to have to size this one up.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the mountain looks like when you were that prodigious at what you do.
Yeah.
It's a great measure of what greatness is.
Yeah.
And a recognition of things that are also great,
Okay. Well, then I'll acknowledge that if we're talking about the mountain being, the Bill Russell qualification, which is that, nobody else can come in here and lead the pack that's going to dominate
right
for an entire era and be as prolific, then the conversation must be about Bono.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, if there's going to be a guy you have to consider, I don't know that he has a weakness that someone else is above him on.
Yeah.
He's for sure on the mountain, whether people want him there or not. Is he the mountain? I don't know.
Somebody could say, you know what, his you can attack something like, well, he's not, as great a singer as a. I don't know how much footage, if we're just talking about mileage of footage, there is on Bono. Mm-hmm. But how many times have you listened to Bono and heard him miss a note?
Yeah, it doesn't happen often.
Yeah. That sounds to me like a pretty damn good singer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael Jackson didn't miss a note. Stevie Wonder don't miss notes. And you can listen to them all day long. But there are plenty of singers that you go out there and you dig through their material and stuff. And, there was that one show in Charlotte, North Carolina or whatever where it wasn't the greatest show. He was a little hungover or whatever. They had been on the road for 13 months.
Right.
And that wasn't the greatest.
Yeah.
But you don't see most of the people that we've talked about, you don't have that, oh, wow, there was that one night in Tampa that was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if there's going to be a mountain, you have to have the conversation that it's Bono, because Look, let's look at some of the things he's done that other people can't do. It's possible that they've done the best 3D movie of all time because U2 3D is like you can't do a better 3D movie. The experience, the whole thing. Over 100 songs that people would all say that's my favorite song of all time.
Over 100 songs.
You could say that.
My favorite song of all time, just by comparison, is a Prince song called "Forever in Your Life." And it's on Sign of the Times, which a lot of people think is his swan song. And it's a deep B-side, to say the least.
Right.
So how many U2 albums have there been?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you want to count it. But we've got over 14 albums of songs. And a lot, they put things out in between, too.
Right,
so there's
So let's say there's the equivalent of, who knows, 18 albums worth of material that you could cull.
Right.
But even if you just say 14 albums,
yeah,
somebody's favorite song is on side 2, and it's track 5.
When I say the best B-side group or performer, you have to also talk about U2 because the Sweetest Thing is a B-side.
It's a B-side.
That's some people's entire career.
Yeah.
And Prince, I think, absolutely also. He's like, I'm so prolific.
Yep.
So, yeah, you want prolific, and you're not more prolific than Bono, Yeah. And they only put out things that they want to put out. There's one album they put out, Pop, that they had to rush out because there was contractual obligations, and I think they regret doing it. But beyond that, they've always waited.
It wasn't that bad.
No, it's not.
I hate that Prince is dead. But I do like that there's a lot of stuff coming out now that we haven't seen a lot of.
Yeah, and hopefully it still has legs, that it's good stuff. It's not like the Hendrix stuff where they keep finding stuff and you're like, I wish they wouldn't have put that out.
Oh, there's going to be 1,000 of those songs because he recorded something every day.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be some things in there that's like, I remember I bought this record years and years ago that it was like, hey, this was Prince before he got discovered.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it was called, but somebody had the rights to some early Prince music when he was like 16.
Right.
And they put it out, and it sucked.
Yeah.
It was not good.
Hadn't quite figured it out. He was 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could tell, like, well, there's something here, but it's not ready.
Yeah.
So, as the vault continues to open, we're going to see some things that are like the things that he crammed into the vault deep in the back.
Yeah. And some of those things are going to resonate with a portion of his audience, but he didn't want that to represent his voice right now.
Right.
That's stuff for the vault. Like, you guys want to look at that when I'm dead?
Yeah.
Great.
Have at it.
But
there is a thing that he does that's on YouTube, and it's him just playing a little blues thing for 20 minutes.
Uh-huh.
And he just does this little number where he starts playing a little blues progression, and he was an amazing blues guitarist.
Right.
There's a clip on YouTube right now, not the one I'm talking about, but I'll get right back to that. There's a clip on YouTube right now that is Prince. I think if you look it up as Prince playing the blues or something,
right,
you can get to it. And that is among some of the best guitar recording that he did to me. That was an amazing live performance. During that live performance, he says, I heard Johnny Lang was in the building. And he starts playing guitar, and then he says, come on up, Johnny. I'll wait for you. And then he plays 20 more minutes, and Johnny Lang never shows up.
Wow.
And I consider myself a pretty serious Princeophile. I'm not quite as serious as Questlove.
Sure.
But I'm more serious than most. And a person I consider a great Princeophile, who's my friend, his name is Josh Luck. And he's given me bootleg recordings from the board and all kinds of stuff. He's been and seen a lot of things. We've talked about him on the show, actually. He said, Johnny Lang was there that night. And Prince started to play, and Johnny said, I think I'm going to let him have this night.
And you're talking about Johnny Lang.
It's Johnny Lang. And he was like, I don't want this to be a contest. I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to just do his thing. And I don't think that Prince meant it that way. But some nights, when you do whatever it is you do, whether it's play guitar or play basketball or whatever, there are some nights where you go, you know what? This person's kind of on fire. I'm going to let him go ahead and be on fire, and I'm just going to sit over here.
Yeah.
You know? I understand that the two were friends and they did plenty of stuff together, but that night Johnny Lang was like, "Nah, I think I'm going to kick it."
Isn't Johnny Lang from Minnesota? Isn't that his?
Oh, is that true? I
believe he's from that part of the nation. I'm not sure, but he absolutely can play the blues guitar. And if you don't know who Johnny Lang is,
go find out.
It's time.
You'll do yourself a favor.
You are going to be surprised. Listen to him first, then watch.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, whoa.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Also, listen to him first and then watch.
Also a prodigy.
Yeah.
Also came out early and came out strong. I wanted to ask you this question on our frontman Rushmore conversations. Daryl Hall walks into the ring.
Man. Yeah.
And in comes hopping and popping and jumping Anthony Cletus.
Okay.
That is a tough fight.
Yeah.
It's style for sure. Right. But
you know what that is? That's Ray Boom Boom Mancini fighting a kangaroo. You don't know who's going to win that.
Don't know.
It just depends.
You don't know.
It really just depends.
You could put all of your money and all of your love on Anthony Cletus.
Uh-huh.
And Daryl Hall was spinning back fist, knock him out.
Right.
You know?
On accident.
On accident. Singing, about kissing girls.
Yep.
And then they do the...
You never know. He might get out. He might get knocked out by private eyes.
Yeah. Absolutely. You do a rematch, and it's a 30-second knockout that Anthony Cletus is standing over the top of Daryl Hall.
Yeah.
It's just... And those are dudes that no one mentioned in that list.
Yeah. No, somebody did. Somebody did.
Mention Cletus?
Yeah.
But not Daryl Hall?
Yeah.
And if you want to sell records, if you want to talk about longevity and just everything else.
And just the ability to do the job of taking the band and leading the band and making the thing happen and really putting the show on his back.
Right.
You can't say Daryl Hall doesn't do that and hasn't done that. And he's done it in rooms that didn't belong to him for decades.
With a sound that didn't belong to him for decades. They had to make a name for it.
Sure.
And it was derogatory, and it's not anymore because Daryl Hall's that good.
Yeah.
Just like...
No, it's not anymore.
Yeah.
You could say, well, you know what, the white boy can sing, but he is just a white boy.
Yeah.
Ask the OJs.
Ask the OJs. Yeah.
Ask Smokey.
As a matter of fact, when the OJs were on Daryl's show... And I know this is, but we had Brian on, the OJs came in and Daryl's like, we're just going to do it and sing it. Let's just do this thing. And they're like, ooh, we do things a certain way. Like they got nervous at Daryl's game.
Yeah.
And the OJs are awesome and they nailed it. But
right.
That's how.
But they did pause for a minute and go, really?
Yeah. We're not going to practice.
We're going to do this just like this?
One take.
Practice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it.
And it's not, I don't think it was like, well, we don't know if we can do it. They've done those songs for years and years and years.
Yeah.
They can do them. They just weren't, I don't think they expected to be put on the spot.
Yeah.
In that type of setting where it was just like, we're just going to do it, man. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it then.
Yeah.
We're talking about Eddie Levert. That guy's got decades.
Right.
We talked about it with Brian. That's the magic of the show.
Yes.
Is the ability to go, we're speaking the same language.
Yeah.
Let's just get out here and talk.
Daryl's not out here messing around. Daryl's got all the, that they know it's Daryl Hall. And then the people that walk into his place and go, I can't believe I'm here with Daryl Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And he brings them in there and they deliver too. Because what happens is this. I know that I've got cobwebs wrapped around me on the drums, and I don't play as much as I should, and I don't play as much as I once did. But even when I manage to blow the cobwebs out, knock the dust off a little bit,
right?
I remember I jammed with Derek Jones, and it was Derek and myself, Clem Dilly on a 5-string electric bass, my cousin Daryl with a Music Man in his hand. And Derek was playing an acoustic. It's not like an upright double bass, but it was just an acoustic bass that I believe was fretless too.
Okay.
So you had a fretless bass, you had a 5-string fretted bass, you had a 4-string fretted bass, and me and a guitar player named Lonnie Smith, who was terrific, wherever you are, Lonnie. And we just jammed in my garage. Me, a guitar player, and 3 bass players.
All right.
And what ended up happening was Derek took us on a ride where he started playing and we just fell in a groove behind him. And he took us to places where it didn't matter what kind of cobwebs you had on you, because you were there and you were on the mountain and you were climbing it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think happens in that Live from Daryl's House setting to the young people that he brings on there, because he brings them on there because they're good.
Yeah.
But then they go on a ride and they're like, holy shit, he pulled shit out of me that I didn't know was in there.
Yeah. I love that show. I'm not going to ever stop loving it. I hope that Daryl keeps making the show. Yep. I hope that Daryl comes on the show.
I hope he does too.
But that, yeah, so that's what it's like to be Mount Rushmore and lead guys. If you're Daryl Hall, you know, like you may not even get considered. And that's how he's that
great as he is.
As great as he is, that's how high the bar is. So
fuck, how do we not put him on there? I don't know. You see, he's like Sly Stone, where it's like, man, we could debate him off of there because of somebody else's contribution being whatever, but I want him to be on there. Emotionally, I want him to be on there.
If you could pick, you know, like you had to pick 10 guys to write you a top 5 hit, or you were going to die, you had to get 10 dudes to do it, I guarantee you better pick Daryl Hall.
You better, yeah.
He's one of those guys.
Sure. He'll throw one up.
He will throw one up. You're like, that guy can do it. You know, that guy can do it. That guy can do it. You know.
Oh, now you just opened up the can of songwriters, Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll have to save that for another episode.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Because that could go a whole episode all by itself.
That sounds so painful.
Yeah. So real quick, what are we working on? What are we working on? What are we prepared to talk about that we're working on?
We haven't talked about Justice.
We haven't talked about Justice.
Yeah.
Justice is a podcast that we are working on. That I'm taking the leadership role because I'm writing the damn thing. That is I don't know how to describe it, but it has to do with my day job, which is I'm a private investigator, and I've just run into some cases, and I investigate a lot of criminal defense cases. And I've run into some cases that deserve some debate.
Yeah.
Cases where a situation has arisen where I'm not sure that justice was served, or maybe it was. Depends on how you look at it.
Even if there's guilt, you know, you've talked about like, you know, if this person did this thing, gosh, we came down awfully hard on him.
Yeah.
And given that we've had Shaka Senghor on our show, and he's like, everybody can be rehabilitated. And when we don't rehabilitate at all, that person still gets out of jail.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Well, maybe we're being a little too hard as a rule on some of these people, you know, and a little too punitive and not recuperative enough.
One of the things that he said was, you know, when he talked about his visit to Germany.
Sure. Yeah.
And when he talked about his cell to the people who were there in Germany, and they said, we would never do that to one of our citizens.
Yeah. And we put people in solitary confinement all the time.
For years.
Yeah. It's a norm. So I love the idea of doing this, and not to beat up on cops and DAs.
No, not at all.
But to tell these stories and say, look, this, a lot of times this could be you. You know, these are decisions that are made in a terrible moment that these people didn't necessarily put themselves in that moment. Maybe they did. And then something happened that you wouldn't have made a different choice. And so I can't wait to hear these stories and start to just illustrate that, you know, because it's one thing to see like CSI and they use a robot and they use some
and that's cool too.
Yeah, black eye and all that stuff's fun, but these are actual, you know.
We don't want to turn a black light on in my house, by the way.
I'm excited to hear the stories.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what comes out and then what stories start to flow in, because there's going to be things like that out there, and you can read these cases and start to put them together.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about stuff that, you know, people are going to disagree about. I think what we're going to do is a lot of the time we're really going to divide the audience.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's how that should have gone. And, oh, no, that's absolutely how that should have gone.
And I hope that's the case, because we don't presume to know the answer.
Yeah, no,
this isn't
absolutely.
us being the judge. This is us saying, this is real interesting. This is real hard.
Yeah.
Does Sly Stone belong on this mountain? It's the same kind of conversation.
It really is the same kind of conversation. It just depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, our first episode is a case that's really exciting, and I guarantee that a lot of people are going to go, oh, absolutely not.
Right.
And other people are going to go, well,
yeah,
that's kind of how it goes.
And the person that goes, he had it coming, they're probably right. And the person that goes, that guy just needs half a chance and a hug. Yeah. And that probably
might be right too. We'll see. But there are going to be a variety of topics. I think what we're planning on doing is we're still putting the final touches on. It's got a lot more of a script than our current show.
Yeah.
We're putting the final touches on that first script, and I believe that we're going to try to put 4 or 5 in the can before we launch it.
Right.
So we can get you hooked on 4 or 5 in quick succession.
And then have you decided, is it going to be episodic or is it going to be one show for each story, you think?
Well, I'm thinking about one show for each story in my mind now.
Yeah.
But there are a number of the stories that we're bandying about that deserve more than one, episode, or that are just longer than that.
Right. There's
so
just more there.
I suspect there are going to be several that are one show long and several that are a multi-show arc because they need to be.
Right.
But a couple interesting things recently that are going to show up in that show. I recently had to go to an ADSEG unit in Susanville.
Say what that means.
That is administrative segregation, and that's where they put the people who are bad, who are in jail.
Not like Michael Jackson bad, like who's bad, but
right.
Like actual
these people
bad
are bad
people. Yeah.
Yeah. And they are, when you take the people in jail and you separate out the ones who are bad, they end up in ADSEG.
Right.
Now, that's not passing judgment on people, but it kind of is. I was, I don't like going in there.
Yeah.
And I had to set foot in that building, and I don't enjoy it.
Right.
There's a lot of people with a lot of pent-up aggression in that place.
A lot of problems, too.
A lot of problems.
That aren't going to be solved where they are.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, it's kind of an interesting thing. I have an ongoing case that actually took place in a prison here in California.
Yeah.
That's where my brother works.
Oh, no kidding.
And so I'm going to investigate the scene of the incident. And my brother is, one of the days next week that I'm going up there is his day to be the watch commander, which for him, my brother,
yeah.
He's, some days he's the warden. Like the Sunday after Christmas was on Friday.
Right.
That's his shift.
That's your shift.
And he's the ranking guy, so guess what? You're the warden.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You get to be the warden, but you have to come in on Sunday.
Yeah.
Those situations they're going to show up in the show because there are things that go on in there that are a little closer to norm in there.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of us out here can't relate to it.
Right.
And so those stories deserve to be told too.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, cool. What else do we got to talk about?
What are you working on?
Oh, man, what am I not working on? I've got a lot of projects. We are working on possibly creating a show for a brand that everybody knows.
Everybody knows. Been around for 158 years.
Yeah, so it's someone that, again, everybody knows, and the people that they work with,
everybody knows.
So we don't know what'll happen, so it's not worth talking about yet, but know that we are working on something pretty big.
And it's exciting.
It's very exciting. We're working on a project possibly with Scott McEwen, and that's pretty cool. A couple different companies have reached out, and it seems like almost every day someone else reaches out to have us produce a podcast for them as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of, you're seeing fewer Break It Down shows than our normal 2 a week because we're doing other stuff that's driving revenue and allowing us to do the show and be a little more choosy, not choosing better or whatever people, but just saying which of these conversations do we want to have. And that's pretty cool to be at that level.
The other thing that the Break It Down show has afforded us is that we've done this enough that we've learned something about producing podcasts, and we've figured out that there are other things that we want to explore in these other shows, other formats, and richer things that we can bring the audience in a different direction.
Right.
So, that's what I'm excited about for a couple of the things that we're doing, and I think it's great. And I think it's great that we continue to do the Break It Down show and, not abandon just the place that allows us to just be us.
Yeah, yeah.
But also to have had the experience that allows us the depth to go, let's check this other thing out, see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we are doing right now, we're working on trying to write a book for podcasting and trying to reveal some of these
One of
things.
us is working on that.
Well, one of us is going to get sucked in once the time is good. But just taking these things and capturing them too. So if you're interested in learning how to podcast, let's talk, because for right now, I'll tell you for free.
Yeah, for right now.
For right now.
But if we tell you for free now, you got to tell your friends about the book later, so that you, and maybe you buy the book. We hope you buy the book, but we hope you also tell your friends to buy the book. We don't give a shit if you read the damn thing; just buy it.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, man, it's nice to be in the same room with you as always. I mean, we talk practically every day, if not every single day.
Yeah. Pretty much. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, but we also don't get to be in the same room except for maybe once a month. So,
yeah. And so we got to enjoy those times. And by the way, there's somebody else I'm going to tease. I'm going to see if I can give a clue. There is someone that we are very likely to get, and they're in a band that almost everybody has heard of.
Jesus.
The person is extremely smart. It's not James Hetfield, but they're similarly credentialed in the academic world.
Extremely.
And they have songs you've absolutely heard.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to have very, very, very likely to have that person on sometime this summer. So we'll see how it goes.
That just made my nipples hard.
Yeah. We are very fortunate. You guys are awesome. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for supporting us. Keep talking. Keep participating. Charlie, keep pushing.
Yeah.
And whoever that dude is out in Australia, Jesus Christ, man.
Hey, dude in Australia. Also want to give a shout out to Daddy C, Michael Colon, for writing our Break It Down middle of the show.
Break it down.
The show. Break it down. Because he is a life mentor, a musical mentor, and always a contributor no matter what we do. He just kind of comes in and throws something at us and goes, here, take that with you.
For those that know our background, we used to do a radio show, and if there is a show G, it's Daddy C.
Yeah.
He has been around since the old, honking his horn as he drove by,
Right. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Daddy C. Thank you for everything, everybody. And yeah, by all means, keep listening, keep telling us how you feel, and keep spreading the love.
Please do.
Go love somebody.